Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel where we learn Power Platform one step at a time. So today, this is a very crucial and a milestone video in our basic series because we will be looking into how to create Dataverse tables, what data model we will be using for our library management system, how Dataverse actually links like foreign key and primary keys together, which is a database concept, which is very important for us to build a strong data model for our Power Apps application, what different features are available, and we'll be looking into prefixes, which we covered in our previous videos with publishers, and how we will be using Dataverse tables while creating them, what different data types are available, right? So all those different things we'll be looking into today's video. So I'm super excited to get started. So let's go.
All right, so we are in our portal, favorite one, make.powerapps.com. So we opened our solution. So let me just go back once so I can show you where the solution appears. Now you can see the library management. You open it, and in our last video, we understood how the UI is for Power Apps Studio, what options are there, and everything. And in this one, we'll be looking into the tables section of our solution. So you can use the same new button, what we use to create our Canvas application, and go to this table. All these options are available, which we will look into down the line. But for now, we will be looking into tables. And you see tables advanced properties. So you can see my display name, plural name, some advanced options are there, all these things which we'll be looking into. But before creating tables, first we need to understand what tables we need to create and how our data will be stored. Because when we are creating a Power App, and you must have like a senior team lead or solution architect who will be doing this for you, and you'll be getting the same design which I'll be showing you, and what you need to create, and then you will be responsible for creating Canvas app on top of that table structure. So I'll close this one. First, let's understand what tables we need to create and why these tables are there. So I just opened this free tool which I use for my database designs. So you can see this is dbdiagram.io. It's a free paid. There is a free version as well which I'm using, and there is a paid version as well. So free version you can create up to 10 diagrams free of charge. So you can see I created my library management studio table structure like this. So you see we have uh, 5 tables here, and you can see we have books, authors, publisher, rented books, and external users. So these are the 5 tables we need to create for our library management solution. So first understand what is books. So books is my very first table where we will be creating multiple columns. One is like the name of the book, who's the author, and published on, when this book was published, and who was the publisher house basically. Then we have authors table. Then so it is like a database concept, primary key and foreign key concept, which is again, if you are inheriting this database, you don't have to worry about it. You would just be responsible for creating the columns in the table and the table structure itself. So my author ID is basically my foreign key. So you can see it is linked with as a one-to-many relationship. So one is my author, many is my books. So then I have author name, all these things, and then I have my publisher and my rented books, and then finally the external user who will be actually renting the book. So you can see under my rented books, I have book ID, rented by, rented on, start date, end date, and then I have publisher, which is nothing but my publisher name and country. And if we require any more properties down the line, we will create those columns as well. So this is my table structure for Library Management Studio. So since now we understand what tables we need to create and what columns we need to create, what is the data type of the columns, let's head back to our table view, and we'll start creating these tables one by one. So let's go here. I'll say table. We'll use the advanced properties option, and we'll create our first table, which is books. So that's that. And so this is a first table. I'll walk you through all these different options. And if you're just starting out again, you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to like go to the advanced option itself, because well, 85% or 90% of the time you'll just give display name, plural name, and that's it, and hit save, and it should create your table. But it's good if you're curious what are the advanced options available. So first is the schema name, that's your internal name for your table. Type, there are multiple types of tables available. Generally we use standard only. So standard is like your custom table, which will satisfy most of your scenario. Virtual table, we use virtual table if we are trying to create a connection, live connection to your SQL, to your SharePoint, all those things. So it's a virtual copy of your data in Dataverse. Then record ownership, I'll create separate video how the record ownership works, how the security role works. So once we understand security roles, then we will be able to understand what is record ownership. But yeah, user or team basically. So if you're a part of a team, or if you are a user who has access to this environment and table, you'll be able to see this table and use it. Then we have color, if you want to assign a color in your data model. Then all these advanced options are there. Generally we use like the audit changes, so it captures what changes are happening in your table, who's creating, who's deleting, and who's updating and modifying the changes. So to enable that, we use this option which is present here. Otherwise pretty much we'll keep it static or standard how it is right now. And if you want to enable any particular feature, once you get more comfortable or you are curious, you might be using this one. Or if you're using, like, let's say if you're creating a model driven app instead of a canvas app, then you'll be using some of these features, like which is like quick create form, retention policy, if you have a new activity, if you have any connections, row level security, all these different concepts if you're working with model driven app. But since we are working in canvas applications, we will be just creating table called books. And by default there is a name column which is your primary name column. And the schema name, business required, character count, all these things you can give. So this is like the primary key of your table books, which is by default. So let's hit save, and this will create our very first table, which is books. And what columns we need to create? So name column gets created automatically, so we don't have to worry about this one. We have to create author ID. So to create author ID, first we need to create authors table, so that I can create author ID as a column of lookup type, which I'll show you right now. But we can easily create published on, and we to create publisher ID, again we need to create publishers table. So let's head back to our solution. So our table is created. Let me just refresh so it loads properly. Great. So you can see tables one, and the table name is book, and see how it has the same prefix as CR468, which is the same as your Power App CR468, because we are creating everything inside the solution. Everything will have the same prefix. So then let's open our books. So now we created the table. Now it's time to create our column. So this new, and see how the drop down option changes, because I am inside tables and I open a table. So the nav by smart enough to know that now you are inside table. So it will give you all the options which are related to that table. So let's hit new. We'll hit column. The very first column we can create name gets out of the box. So let's create published on. published underscore on, and it is of date type field, and all these things will remain as it is. So I'm using advanced option to update my internal name with underscores. So published underscore on will be my internal name and my display name will be published on. Date time, perfect. Save. This will create my second field in my table or second column in my table, which is published on. And you see how name is appearing here and this required asterisk is visible. That means it's a required field in this table, which is understandable since it's the primary key. Right, so now we created name which comes out of the box, then we created published on. We need to create now author ID and publisher ID. So to create these two columns, first we need to create publishers table and authors table. So let's quickly hit back to tables. We'll click again table, and the second table we'll be creating is publishers. So let's create publishers table. Right, so we created publishers table. Let's third table we need to create is our authors table. So let's create our authors table as well. We'll create columns down the line. I'm just quickly creating all the tables we need to create so that we can create the foreign keys of these tables, i.e. author ID and publisher ID. Then next one we need to create is rented books. So let's create another one, which is my rented books. And the last one we need to create is external users. Right, so we have external users. There is out of the box table available, which is users, but users table will only have data for the users who are part of your tenant, which I'll take you through down the line. Since our system will be used by like n number of people outside of our organization, then that's why we are creating external users as a table. So we have all our 5 tables created. Let's head back to books table, and our next column is author ID. So let's create another column and let's name that column as author ID. And you see all these different options are available, right? So all these options we need to select lookup, looking up, and you see how it says related table. So since we are saying author, so who it needs to look up is authors table. That's how it creates a relationship that is one to many, right? I talked about one to many relations. It's a database concept. So lookup column gets used to create the relationship between these two tables. So author ID, great. So we have author ID now, and lookup optional related table, right? So you can see author ID, everything is perfect. Let's save our column. Then the next column we need to create is the publisher ID, looking up publishers. Okay, it's taking its sweet time to save. So once we have created all these tables, all these columns, we start creating our Power App. So before that, we must create all these tables. That's why we are going through this exercise. All right, perfect. So our third column is created, saying as author ID. Let's create a final column, which is publisher ID. Yes, publisher ID. Same lookup, lookup. Related table will be my publishers. So you can see publishers, lookup, publisher ID. Perfect. Let's hit save. and that would create my final column in my books table. Great. So you have my final table as well, which is my publisher ID. So you can see all 4 columns are available, all these 4 columns. Yeah, I didn't talk about this GUID, which is my another primary key. So in Dataverse table, there is a concept called GUID or GUID. So GUID, or if you hear anything about GUID, GUID, Dataverse, primary keys, so there is a concept in Dataverse which is the GUID. GUID is nothing but a column which gets created out of the box. So if I search here, so you can see this books. Oh, it's already there in my view. Yeah, there we go. So you see this books. So this books column is non-editable, and it creates a unique 16-digit alphanumeric string, which is like your primary key or unique identifier. What does that mean? That means how I can identify a unique row in my table by looking at this books column, which is a GUID column. So just to show you, let me create one book record, which is The Alchemist. That's the only book I read in my life. Like completely. I completed this book without sleeping. That's why I have this on top of my head. So that's The Alchemist. And so you see how it created this string, alphanumeric string, which is like unique ID. And if I create another one, then it will create another string which is completely new from this, and it auto generates it. You can't control this. That's a feature of Dataverse table. So yeah, so that covers my books table. I explained all these columns and this. So I'll quickly pause the recording and quickly create all these other tables. So I hope you got the hang of it, how to create tables and columns. So I won't bore you uh, to and show you all these redundant steps to create all these tables and columns. I'll quickly pause. I'll resume once I created all these tables. All right, so I created all these columns. So let's start one by one. So you can see first was my books table. So I created name, publisher on, author ID, and publisher ID. And my authors table, I have author's name, author email, author phone number, author address, and author country. You can see all these tables, and you see how I have a GUID column in my in my every table with the same name as my table name. So you can see authors, which is non-editable. So you can see this icon. This says read only. Same is available in my books, where I showed you. Same is available in my external users. You can see external users. They have name, user, email, phone number, address, and I have my publishers table, again GUID, name, publisher country, and then the rented books. I have GUID, name, and all these columns. Now if you see in my rented books table, I don't have a name column. I don't need a name column, but since this column comes out of the box and it's a primary column, what we can do, and it's required as well, right? So what we can do, instead of keeping this as editable field and give some rubbish values when we are creating rented books record, what we can do is edit this column, and instead of single line of text, you see how another option appears once we have created the table, that is auto number. Auto number is nothing but it generates a new number every time you create a new record, right? So that's what it means, and you can see I can prefix this by, let's say, RB. So RB, and you can see seed value is 1000, minimum 4 numbers. So you can see my name value will be RB 1000, 1001, 1002, like that. I can give 100 as well. That will change my starting from 100, 101, 102. I'll give 100, see a minimum digits 3, and that's another auto number concept of Dataverse that will make this column non-editable, and we don't have to manage it. less headache for us. So if I refresh this, yeah, so I refreshed, and now you see it's the same view as my rented books, non-editable, and we don't have to worry about it. And all these columns are created. So we'll create some records from Power Apps, but for now, just to show you how lookup column works, I'll quickly create one author, and I'll create myself as author, although I have no clue how to write a book. Right, so my email address xy xyz at the rate exchange.com, and my phone number would be, and address would be saving the world, country India. Right, so I have this record now. If I go to my books, I created The Alchemist, right? So you can see how I have author ID. The moment I double click this, you see how my name appears. That's because I created a record in my authors table. And you see how Akshan Sharma is now appearing in my books table, same as this one. That's what a lookup column means, because author ID is a foreign key of authors table. And if I change any value, let's say I remove Sharma and only keep Akshansh, for example, and we'll go back to books and see how it appears Akshansh, because it is referencing this record. So whatever you are changing in this record, it will appear, the change will appear in here as well. See how it says no records found for publisher ID, because we haven't created any data in the publisher, right? So I'll create one test publisher. Publisher country would be India. And if I go to books now and double click on publisher, see how test publisher appears. That's what it means uh, for a foreign key in Dataverse. So that's how it works, and hope you understand how Dataworks works, and the table structure, foreign key, primary key, GUID columns, auto number, name, all these things. And in the next video, we will start creating the actual Power Apps, because we have the foundation now. We have created Dataverse tables, we have created the solution, we have created the Power App. We have all the foundation which we need to start creating the functionality. So that was all for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one, where we will be start creating beautiful application and features. Thank you very much. See you in the next one.